cup of coffee, then I'll go. Thought that
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Coffee Time Live with your host, Lauren Lau, live from Armenia, Colombia. And now, here's Lauren.
And here he is. Sorry about that. I accidentally clicked something that I shouldn't have clicked. And somebody asked me, and so here it is, you know what this is about. Okay, what do we got? Hola papi. Miss you. Excuse me. Good morning from Medellin. It's Rob. Excuse me. Dale, good morning from Calja 8. Armenia. Buen dia, Senor Lauren. Good morning from Austin. That's Lockdown, Texas, right? Danny. Hello, Lauren. Good morning, all. Looks like everything's working. Miracle of miracles. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, I'm in pretty good spirits considering Phil. Hello from Do we have audio now? Video only. How are we doing? It must be there. It says it's there. You know, I had it off. I clicked it on, but I must have double clicked it by accident. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so what was I talking about? I'm actually going to tell you about it again. I had a back issue. I'm not a person with back problems. I don't really have hardly any experience with it, but about halfway down on the left side of my back, I had this pain. It was like somebody was stabbing me with a knife, and it was excruciating. It was, I don't even know how to explain how bad it was. I mean, I wanted to cry. And it was like that all week. I went to the mall yesterday thinking that I could, maybe if I walk a little bit, every step it was just piercing. And, I got there, I got back, I laid on the floor. I was sorry that I went. All week, I spent most of my time in an armchair. because that would seem like the only position I could be comfortable in, with my feet up on the footstool and kind of slouched in this armchair. It was awful. But last night it started feeling better. And I woke up this morning, felt halfway decent. So yeah, hopefully it'll pass. I have no idea what it was. But it really sucked. Don't want to go through it again. So we got Rob, who's watching, and he's in Medellin. He flew in, and that brings me to my one and only topic for today. It wasn't really about my back. Yes, we are officially open. Colombia is officially open as of June 1st. Being cold sucks. Bite me. Now, did you have to? Yeah, I guess it does. Okay. So the official word is you don't need a PCR test to come into Colombia. Although Rob flew in Friday and they, asked him for his PCR, but that doesn't surprise me because it was as of June 1st, but it actually didn't come out, get published, or at least out to in the newspapers where we would know about it until I think Thursday or Friday. And so that he came through and immigration, asked him, it doesn't surprise me, but he was probably one of the last ones, maybe the next day. There tends to be a lag of information sometimes, but now you only need I guess, an antigen test to go back to the USA if you're going there. But to come here, you're all set, free and clear. But more than that, it has been officially deemed that discos, bars, nightclubs, however you want to call them, or all of them, dance studios for Marshall, all of these things are now officially able to be open, whatever ones are left. So that's, if you like the nightlife, that's pretty awesome. Sports, sporting events, stadiums, things like that, officially open. Now, there is a caveat. This is only for areas or like departments like Quindío, if your hospitalization is below 85% in the emergency. But if it goes over 85%, supposedly for COVID, goes over 85%, then you have to go back to certain levels of restrictions. There's no rhyme or reason to this stuff. It's just the way it is. So, Armenia, Javier, can't you see my comments? Yeah, but that's the first one you made. But I see that one. But you didn't have any others. Now, YouTube sometimes will censor comments, and I got nothing to do with it. I'm not stopping any or censoring any. That's just YouTube. I just reset the chat, and I'm looking up, and nope, I don't see any. So, if you're saying something nasty, then YouTube's going to stop it. And when I say saying something nasty, that could be, hello. I mean, it's YouTube after all. So, who knows? I had a notice of a video from a couple years ago that they were going to pull it down. Okay. What is all this dinging? Do I have anything else on this? Oh, how is the vaccination going? Well, it's going. There's plenty of vaccinations. They're hard at it here in Condillo. If you're over, what is it, 60 years old, you get a priority. I think they've already vaccinated everybody in the government, police, and fire. I think those have already been done. I believe I read somewhere that like 40 some percent, 42% are completed here. I don't know. I don't really care. But what I do care about is in my building, for the first time since I've lived here, the swimming pool and the gymnasium and all the accessories, they will be open as of Tuesday, June 8th. So that's pretty cool. Sorry I'm late. Hello, Helsinki. Glad to have you. If I move to Armenia, should I keep my USA address? I would. It works well for me when I moved to Ecuador. And now Ecuador is not Colombia and vice versa, but there are some similarities about being out of the USA. When I went there, I listened to what some people were saying on forums, I'm sad to say. Excuse me. I got a post office box service. It was like 20 bucks a month, something like that, with an address to use. I changed address there. I got a bank account, and then I got another bank account. Thinking this was the thing to do, and then you run into some obstacles. And and everybody's situation is different, but there's a lot of little things. Like, for example, when I first went to Ecuador, I wasn't on Social Security, but then I could draw Social Security at some point when I hit 62. And I said, sure, let me go ahead and sign up for it. And so I could do that online, and so I did that. But then what I didn't know is that if you're out of the country, you have to verify that you're alive every year, and you have to do it with a written form. And if you're in Ecuador or Colombia, there's no place here to file it. And so then you got to do a DHL or some shipping thing, and it takes time. And while that's going on, they're going to hold up sending you money. And if it takes a couple months, then you're without money. So you want to be real careful of that. Now, if I had a U.S. address, that never would have been an issue. Whoops. Careful what you touch. Big thing just flashed up and said, do you want to stop streaming? I have this. Now, this is not really a tablet. This is a Fire TV tablet, which you can't do anything with except for the apps, except I know it's Android, and I know how to break them. And so I ordered this it was on a special. This is the Fire TV 8. So it's the newest operating system, which means it's pretty quick, and it's got a HD screen. And there was a special thing. I got it for $29. So I ordered it up. I got it. I broke it. I put in Google Play Store, and I downloaded the app that I use on my computer for controls for the software for this. So now I can actually have this and do it. Of course, it doesn't help if you accidentally punch the wrong buttons. All right. So long and short of it is I suggest that you are on an extended vacation or a fact-finding tour, but your home of record remains where it is, your bank remains in the United States. There's nothing that you can't do. Why go through those changes? there's other obstacles along the way, and I don't want to go into all the little details because I didn't prepare for that question and I'll forget, but I have covered it before, and I've talked about a number of the things that different people can run into or everyone can run into. And it's just problematic to do that. And bottom line is, why? I mean, there's no advantage to putting yourself with an address here and getting a bank here. There's no advantage to it, but you're opening yourself up for potential issues. So I would say yes. Look up one of my videos from a couple years ago where I talk about the preparation for coming here, and I go over those things. What's the name of it? I don't know, but you can do a search. Good morning. I've got a virtual mailbox set up in Canada. Yeah, I had one. It was just a complete waste of money. You also find that after you're down here for a while, you really stop getting mail. Pretty much everybody can do mail through email, and if it's you need an original document, you can do it as an attachment, print it off, get it notarized or certified or whatever, a notary. I don't know. I have no need for that mail service. I canceled it long ago while I was still in Ecuador. iPostal, look into it and have your address changed with all your critical services before you leave. There's no reason to do that. Why do that? You're going to pay money for a service you have no need for. Unless you have no possible permanent address that you can use, you've got no relatives, you got no good friends or whatever. But I only had use of that for probably my first few months. And then I had no use for it. So then later, when I learned it was all pointless anyway, it had already just been, it had been going on for just pay the bill for nothing. Should I continue filing USA taxes when relocating? That's a tax decision that you have to make. If you're, it depends on your circumstance. If you're retired, you're retired and you're drawing Social Security like I am, no, because you can't file your tax. Okay, I'll go to TurboTax. I did this for the last few years because somebody said, well, you really should file even though you don't owe. Well, here's what happens. You go to TurboTax and you go through and you put all the stuff and it comes out that, you don't have to file. And so, okay, I don't have to file, but I want to put it through. They won't put it through. They won't do the electronic transfer because you have no reason to file and they're not going to send it. So I couldn't file. I mean, I could have printed off, put it in an envelope, sent it off, but there's no point because you're not required to. So, it depends. If you come down here and you're doing some big digital nomad thing and you're pulling down 40 grand a year or something, then yeah, you're going to definitely have to file USA taxes. Exactly my plan. After a while it's gone, but during transition it will be handy. It's not handy. When I said that I used it for a couple months, I used it, but I didn't need it and had it. I have it right now. My permanent address is with my half brother or stepbrother, and his father was my stepfather. So I don't know what that. We didn't have the same father and mother, but we kind of grew up, somewhat together and were friends, and he worked in one of my businesses and, lifelong. So anyway, if I'd had him doing it, he could have done better for me than the mailbox service. Again, I don't want to get lost in the weeds, but I'm telling you, whenever you're adding things to your life, you're adding complications. But hey, if that's what you want to do, you do it. I'm not here telling you what to do. I'm just This is a Q&A thing, and I'm giving you my opinion on these things. And I've been through these things that we're talking about, and I did those things thinking they made sense, just like you probably think it makes sense. And then later I found out it was just all a big waste of money, waste of time. It was a mistake. I wish I had never done it. And so, that's what I'm sharing with you. Now, you want to go back and, do those things, it's great. My U.S. address is a close friend. Also, my phone contact info is also with friends. If an issue comes up, we use either email or WhatsApp. That's a good way to do it. You're assuming the mail requirements for Canadians is the same for you. I still need to communicate with Revenue Canada for a while, etc., via mail system. Well, you're not going to be able to do that because there's no mail system here. So how does that work? And if you have a permanent address, let's say you have a brother, just as an example, you're telling me that wouldn't work as an address for you, but a postal service would? I don't think so. And I'm not trying to give you a hard time. It's just, like I said, I've been through this stuff. No Canadian credit card company will send a new card overseas. Okay? With a virtual mailbox mail forwarding, I can have said mail forwarded. Yes, you can. I had that very same thing happen to me, and took forever. And then I had one with my stepbrother, half brother, whatever that is, do something like that, and it was way quicker. There's nothing that they can provide unless you have absolutely nobody in your life. Everybody's dead, everybody's gone, you don't trust anybody with anything. And that could be a real situation. I mean, I'm running close to that. There's only a couple people in my life that are still alive and kicking. So I mean, that could be. But other than that, there's the mail service scans and emails. Yes, they do. And so does my half brother. So, except with him, I can get a hold of him better, and I don't even have to. He doesn't even email. He just sends it in a message system that we use. He sends as an attachment. I meant stimulus checks. I lost it. Can I be eligible for COVID-19 IRS checks when relocating? Well, there won't be any more, but yes, of course. But they're done. Again, lay back. No, I don't have a brother or family. Use assumptions. Okay, well, I said that. I don't know when you type that. So that could be, in which case that would be your option. But that's, I'm talking to a group of people that are going through the same thing, and so I'm going to give, the 99% of people out there are going to have that situation. But like I said, I'm not far behind you. If something happened to him, God forbid, well, we don't want to talk about that. No, don't, no. Okay, I know you, that's a joke, but kind of reads harsh. No, that would be an exception. And honestly, that was part of my thinking. Part of my thinking was, I don't want to have a permanent address and bother anybody. That was part of it also. But, everybody said that's the way to do it. And so I did it. And then I had problems with it. They were supposed to be one of the best ones, highly rated, and I had issues with them. And it was just it was frustrating. It wasn't as easy and as seamless as they advertised. Plus, they advertised, you get it. See, a lot of them use post office box addresses, which are not valid for certain things, particularly with governments. But some of them, usually the ones that charge a little more, will give you a dedicated address. I got the one with the dedicated address. And there were a couple things that came up where even though it was a dedicated address, it was the best plan you could get. And I don't remember now because this was like 5.5 years ago, 6 years ago. But even with the dedicated address, they could tell, and they informed me that they could not mail me the document. It was when I was trying to do the Ecuador visa, and we ended up, I had to pay DHL and have them do it separately anyway. I'm going, what's the point of this? Should I open an international bank account? If you want, but why? If you don't need it, don't do anything more than what you need. And again, it depends on where you're from. I'm talking about USA when it, comes to the bank, and I use Capital One. HD Chillin, thank you. I appreciate it. Do we still use the Corona app to fly? Nope. That's done. It's gone. The app is gone. You still have to do the immigration thing, but the Corona app and the testing is done and over with. So the bank account, my advice is, unless you have a particular reason to do it, just use whatever bank you're using. I've never used a mail forwarder, but there are pros and cons to any approach. For example, some financial institution, a credit card, may have a problem with mail forwarding addresses. Well, it doesn't, what he was talking about, it doesn't really, what happens is it goes to that as if that were your permanent legal address. And then they, as a service, will scan, and it seemed pretty neat at first. They'll scan whatever it is. And you had a certain number of scans for free, and after that you pay per scan. And then you could just click on it, and you could actually look on the document, and you can tell them, throw it in the trash or set it aside to send to me, and I'll tell you when to send, like once a month or whatever. And then if there's something that you actually need, they will print it and they will send it to you. You can send it individually, or you can send it as a group. Like I said, you can hold back, and then, okay, it's been a couple weeks, let's go ahead and send whatever you have, and they'll send that to you. Of course, that's a charge of the, I'm going to sound like a penny pincher, but when I got squeezed not so long ago, it gave me a rude awakening. But they charge you for the shipping, plus there's a handling fee, plus there's this fee and that fee. It ends up paying, considerably or somewhat more than what it would normally cost. But it's not a forwarding address. It's supposed to be like an actual address. Now some, like I say, come up just as a post office box. And even if you're going to get one of these, don't get one of those, because you will find from time to time there's certain entities that will not send something to those. If you have a friend or relative, that could get messy too. They might move, etc. Sometimes it could be a burden for the person, at least in my experience. Well, that's true. On the other hand, you find real quick, particularly if you arrange before you go, you're not going to be, what's going to be sent to you? I mean, most of what you get is junk mail as it is. And what actually is going to be sent to you? If you're talking about coming to Colombia, you can bring with you what you need as far as any kind of documentation. Ecuador is a different story, and for the first few months, you're really going to need some kind of conduit, because you're going to think you got what you need, but then you got to go get more, and it's problematic. But Colombia, it's considerably easier. Plus, there's things you can do through the embassy here. But yeah, I mean, you want to have the right situation. So just understand that, I guess the way I'll leave this is the mailbox companies that we're talking about, they're not all the same. I had one of the highest rated ones, and it was problematic. It worked, but it was a little frustrating sometimes. It was pretty pricey. Obviously, they're there to make money, and you pay more and more and more if you're not careful. They love it if you set things up automatic to just go ahead and ship out every whatever interval. It's like, well, there's another $50 gone. And that was back when I was making a lot of money. I was doing consulting online, and it was just all kind of annoying. So yeah, you gotta work something out. Just be careful what you choose. His real address to get around this. Yeah, I don't know iPostal, and maybe it's better. Like I said, the one that I had, you actually paid more to have an actual address, but they still caught it a couple times. Hello from Orlando. Howdy. Yeah, I think he was joking actually, but I mentioned something about that. It sounded a little harsh. Sometimes things come across in print that aren't intended that way. I'm actually king of that. Situation now in Colombia with recent protests. Protests? What protests? Funny you ask. As of this next week, there's international, or I don't remember the name of the group, but a human rights group coming to Armenia to check for 3 or 4 days to see what kind of violations of human rights took place. See, there's a lot of propaganda and a lot of people, a lot of news reports. There were supposedly, I don't remember the numbers now, so I'm going to ballpark it. Something like 290 missing people supposedly that disappeared. And they found those people. They weren't dead. They were doing what they were supposed to be doing, living, working, whatever. They were reported as missing fraudulently to make a point to blow things up out of proportion. They did find that 17 people were dead as a result of the protests. Different circumstances. For example, if you're shooting at the police, there's a good chance you're going to get shot back. That happened in some of them. I think there was 1 or 2 that were accidental shootings. But of a country of 80 million people with protests in pretty much all the cities, at least for a week, and with all the claims of all these, murders and disappearances, I mean, Bogota had 1, Armenia had none. There's supposed to be 1 in Pereira, but in the official reports, there's not 1 in Pereira. I don't understand that unless the person is from Cauca or something like that, and they did it by where they were from, because that was an issue. A lot of people were in protests in cities that they actually didn't live. They really didn't belong there. So the whole thing is kind of an ugly mess, blown up out of proportion, used as a political tool. Not to say that there weren't real issues. Of course there's real issues. Whenever you have poverty, you're going to have real issues. You have real issues in Baltimore. You have real issues everywhere. In London, you've got real issues. But it was used and manipulated. And, I got called out on that, but, it's like time tells a lot. Because what did the protests end up being? Right up till last week, we had a march here in Armenia, and I wanted to grab the camera and stuff, but it was too late. it was a lot of people. There's probably about 1,000 people. They were dancing, they were playing music, they were doing the old kind, but their banners were talking about open up Colombia, open up Colombia. As long as we're protesting, let's protest the fact that there's, unemployment over lockdowns, unemployment over, shutting everything down. Quindío heavily relies on tourism, and, that's been, excuse me, it's been scared away. So, but it was, it wasn't a mostly peaceful protest. It was entirely peaceful protest. There's no issues now. The roads are open. I just actually had a delivery that came through Cali. Cali was one of the last holdouts. But, it's funny. It's not funny, but when they came out with the announcement that the bars and the discos and the sporting events and all that would open, even the last remnants kind of dissipated. Because contrary to what somebody here locally was arguing with me about, they should know, right? They're Colombian, I'm not. But I contended that yes, well, there are issues, but it's being fueled by the underlying anger of, job loss and income, how it's affected their income, and everything being closed, and the frustration of wearing wearing face diapers and all of this stuff. It comes to a head, and so when you got protests going on, of course that's going to affect it and influence it, and primarily because year after year after year they have protests about similar issues, but it doesn't turn into the violence that we saw in Cali. But you also have a political season, and you've got people that are ready to be upset because they're already upset. Yeah, I'm not real happy about it. So there's that. How are the protests? Life is good. Stay tuned, and I'll tell you what the outcome of the human rights violations will be. But I can pretty much tell you what it's going to be now. Especially since they're here in Armenia. They were asked to come. I just got a notice. It said that you might be experiencing buffering, but it also says I've got an excellent connection. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's going on. YouTube can drive me crazy sometimes. So let me go through. What do we got here? Needs to be friends or relatives that really care about you. Sorry you brought it up. Works well for me. Don't be sorry you brought it up. It was actually a good topic. No, you're missing the point. I'm not telling you that what you're doing is wrong. That's not the point. You can say that, and so I'm sharing my experience with those things. It doesn't mean your experience is going to be my experience. So, don't be offended by, what I had to say any more than I'm offended by what you had to say. I'm not saying you're wrong. What works for you, what's right for you is good for you. And, but if people are considering this, now they have some things to look into that, I've brought up, and either resolve those or look for an alternative. Either way, it's going to work out for them. I filled Social Security with a foreign address. Yes, you need annual proof of life, but it's not all that time critical. They send it out 2 times over the year, so you have several months. Yeah, I guess once you know about it, you can be ready and prepared for it. I wasn't, and some people that I knew that I reached out to, they got hit around the same time. They didn't, and one guy actually went without getting paid for 3 months. A friend I had in Manizales. So, again, these are caveats. It doesn't mean the world's crashing down, but beware, these things can happen, and it's a downside. It's a downside that you can run into this kind of thing. Whereas, the way I'm doing it, and other people that are doing things the way I'm doing it, we're not exposed to those downsides. Everything is status quo. And there's something to be said for that. what's the name of his survey? He said it was iPostal. These guys never go to Venezuela or Los Angeles, Portland, General. Yeah, iPostal. Yeah. Yeah, the situation in Canada wouldn't be the same, right? And I'm not speaking for Canada again. You guys, I really want you to understand that I'm the expert of my life. I'm not an expert of your life, and I'm giving you my opinion, my experience, things that I've run into, and had that worked well for me, I would continue to do it, but it didn't work well for me. To do it for a few months, that could make good sense. Again, I don't know your situation. You might have a situation where you get a fair amount of mail. I didn't by then. I had kind of, that was coming out of spending time in the hospital and spending time home in bed, and I wasn't able to work, and I was weaning off a lot of expenses because my insurance kind of ran out, and I had to go into savings, for the medical stuff, and so I had to start looking at all of those expenses, and I just started, preparing for that type of situation, long before. So, in South America, official stats of death, missing people, whatever the government wants it to be, so only word from boots on the ground really count. Well, obviously, but this report, well, I don't want to go in. You can look it up. You can find it. It's not a government report, but for example, here in Armenia, we pretty much know what goes on in Armenia, and people that are in Cali pretty much know what goes on in Cali, like that. And then they, in turn, report that information. There was nobody that came from Bogota, from the federal government, came down and checked all the trash cans and back alleys. It's not like that. And Colombia isn't like most of South America. As much as people want to paint the picture of how horrendously corrupt it is, you have to understand that there's a lot of politics that runs in the background of these things, particularly when you get to election time. But official stats of death, yeah, that's not what I was referring to. But like I said, you can look it up and find that information. Okay, so do we have any other questions? Sin nombre. I hope you don't feel like I was beating up on you, because I wasn't. Or I certainly didn't intend to. What if the person you use for their U.S. address moves? How would you change your address with Social Security? Okay, it's real simple. First of all, you could change your address with the Postal Service online. I actually did recently, because all this time I'd forgotten to do it. And like for 2 years, I forgot to officially change it at the post office. Most of the stuff he was just grabbing it anyway, because he lives out in the country. He knows the mailman knows him. They've known each other for years. It's no big deal. But I remembered, so I went ahead and changed it online. Wasn't a problem. I think it cost me $1. And then with the Social Security, you go onto the Social Security website and you just put your change of address in there, and that's done pretty much instantaneously, just like you can change your deposit for your bank. That doesn't happen instantaneously. I changed from my checking account for deposit to the same bank to the savings account, and it took 2 months for it to switch over. So I made the change, and then the next month came in the checking, and the month after that came in the checking, and it was on the 3rd month it showed up in the savings account. So there is a delay to it, but that's how that's done. If you import something that has a value-added tax or import tax due, How do you go about paying it so it can be delivered? I've never run into that because they always add it on. You know, maybe there's a situation where you don't, but then I'll follow up with that. But whenever you buy something, the tax will be calculated, or you can even calculate it and add that amount. There's charts of what gets 40%, what gets 10%, what gets 5%, and what doesn't have any. But let's say if I ordered something from Amazon, for example, or Home Depot, or just pick something, and if they're shipping to Colombia, then they will automatically have calculations for the shipping and for the tax. And I've yet to have any refund come back to me or asked to pay any more. Now, somebody told me, this is word of mouth, anecdotal, no verification, but told me that he had something sent to him that he didn't think there was going to be a charge for it, but it turned out there was a charge, and it didn't come from a business, it came from a person. But he said that he was able to go to some online portal and pay with his debit card. But I don't know if that's real or not. And I've never heard it from anybody else. That was, a one-off situation as far as I know. How convenient or inconvenient is to deal with immobiliary agents? I generally don't recommend them because he's talking about rental agents. Taco fillings, thank you. Hey, amigo. Muy exclusivo time. Yeah. Rental agents, I have a problem in general with them. On the other hand, when people are moving here to Armenia, I actually recommend a rental agent. But that's because I know him personally, and I know what he's agreed to do for people, and he's followed through in, I think, 3 or 4 different situations now. Generally, rental agents don't care if they negotiate or not. They don't really want to go back to the owner. They'll hit you up very typically with high deposits, maybe as much as 6 months worth of deposit. I find them kind of difficult to work with. Now, if you think you're rich and you got all this money and you don't care if you throw it around, then, great, go for it. I don't find that they're really much of an asset. I had tried a couple and it was just frustrating. So what I've done since then is talk to owners, and they're always willing to negotiate. I've told the story. My first apartment here in Armenia was a guy in Bogota, and it's his retirement apartment. So someday when he retires, he wants that for him and his wife. He wanted 6 months deposit. He wanted $1 million in rent, and there was some provisions in the lease, like 2 months notice before I could move out and things like that. And I had to walk away 3 times, but in the end, we worked it out to $850,000 for the rent, 1 month notice, and a month rental deposit. And I actually ended up staying there for a couple years, and we got along great. A rental agent would never have been able to do that. So that's my feeling about it. It's, if you can, look for the owner and deal with them directly. I also say, when you're looking for apartments, if you can, try to find one that's been out there for a while, because then the owner's a little hungrier. What's the best service for cell phone? Oh, they're all pretty good. It depends on where you are. I use Movistar. I like Movistar. Claro is another very popular one. Local people, you see a lot of them are using Claro. But it depends. I'll go somewhere and my Movistar's got better service and somebody's with me with Claro, but then that can be reversed. They're all pretty similar. Tigo is probably the cheapest, although there are hidden deals. I ended up with Movistar with a post pago. You pay after the fact instead of paying before, and it's a 1 month service, and it's only 27,000 a month. They don't publish that anywhere. But I found out kind of by accident one day when I was in the office. By what they publish, I think the cheapest they show is somewhere around 60,000 a month. There's a good chance you don't know this, but I'll ask anyway. For vaccinations, Colombia or expats being treated the same as Colombians? Or are they making expats wait longer than nationals? Well, I do know that. If you're here, have your visa, cedula, you're here as a resident, and you have the EPS insurance like you're supposed to have, you're treated no differently. What if the tax was not added in? I don't know. I don't. I'm probably lagging behind here, but I just refer back to that one off that I was told about. I personally get a fair amount of shipping done, and I've never had one where it wasn't added in. And sometimes there's no tax, so maybe it's a situation where there wasn't a tax to add in. I guess you're going to find out. Wistundra from Down Under, Movistar. Are you of something I need to do with Colombian migration within 15 days of arrival? I'm not sure. The woman at migration in the airport mentioned something and hand wrote a note, but I didn't understand her. Maybe she wants a date? Do something with Colombia in 15 days of arrival. I don't, never heard of that. No. When you arrive, you're on your 90-day, the stamp visa. There's nothing you have to do. You can go sign up for, your regular visa during that time. It doesn't take hardly any time at all. A couple weeks. So I don't know. Hand wrote a note. That seems, I don't know. Maybe she's hitting you up for a date. How would you find apartment rental direct from direct owner? One of the best ways is to know. Well, for example, here in Armenia, there's 3 neighborhoods that all 3 are good to live in. I would have no problem with all 3 of them, or I could even say 4. So I go to my first choice. I did this last year. You go to my first choice, and I walk around and I look on the windows for signs, because that's the primary source of advertising. And usually the signs will tell you right away. Is it a homemade sign? Then it's probably the owner. Is it a form sign that's been printed out? It's probably a rental agent. But you don't have to take it for that. You can also ask the rental agent if you can talk to the owner. I did that with a guy that I now recommend. He was the first one that actually had no problem with it. He was really cooperative, but generally they kind of covet that. So another way is Facebook Marketplace, for example. There's also some rental sites, but those are pretty much put up by agents. But Facebook Marketplace, you go on there and you can find some that are, no agent involved. You put the word out if you know people. I certainly did this last time around, and so there were people I could ask, hey, did you check, such and such a building? You can also go into a building that you like and ask the guard if he's aware of any apartments or condos that the owner is going to rent. and there's a pretty good chance that you'll end up getting put in touch with the owner. So, I mean, there's different ways. If you're in a rush, I took the one with the owner in Bogota, I took 10 days to settle on that one. I was looking at a couple different ones. If you have a schedule and belong to EPS, you're treated the same as Colombian for vaccination. Exactly. How do you, okay, I need cedula or pensionado visa for rental. Well, look, I can't say this is going to happen every time, but the last person I had my friend hook up, he had applied for his visa, did not have his cedula, did not have his visa yet, and he got his apartment. And got his apartment a very good price, and no big down payment. It was cake. It was a piece of cake. So it can be done. Will it be done? Not necessarily. They're not supposed to. And think about it. If you're a landlord, if you're an owner of a building or an agent will just tell you no generally. But if you're an owner of a building, I mean, you want some kind of security, and that doesn't feel very secure, because what if that person doesn't get his visa? He has to legally be out of the country in 90 days. Then what do I do? Maybe she was telling you that you have to register your cellular in 2 weeks. That's a possibility. Yeah, if you don't have, I think it goes 30 days. I got burned on it. I had Movistar in Ecuador. I was coming to Colombia back and forth, and then one day I made a trip here and it just didn't work anymore. I thought Movistar was Movistar, but it's not. They're separate. Computers don't connect. It might as well be with a different company. And it took me 3 days to get my cell phone unlocked. Yeah, that could be. Who was the bozo that thumbed down? Let me get him. I get that there's sometimes I look it up, because I'll get on one day, I'll get like 7 or 8 videos where all of a sudden one thumbs down appeared on each one. And so out of curiosity, I go and look, and you don't see who the person is, but you can see what their IP address is. And it'll be the same IP address. So you know that over the course of the 5 minutes that they did that, they didn't sit there and watch those 7 videos. Some people just do that. It's just part of it. Getting nasty comments. I get nasty comments. By far, the vast majority of nasty comments are from people that didn't actually watch the video. And I can actually tell that too, because it registers each person how long they actually had the video on. When your credit card is missing, is any bank willing to send a new card to Colombia? Should I tell my bank about relocation to Colombia? Yes, you want to tell your bank about relocation to Colombia. I use Capital One 360. I highly recommend that bank in the United States to people, because they're probably the most reliable and friendliest bank in dealing with an overseas situation. And they will send a card to Colombia, but you can, like I say, you can have it sent to your service or to your family member or whoever, and they can send it on to you with DHL, and you say, "Well, DHL, they suck." Yeah, but here they're the big player here. I'm not a fan of DHL, but if you're here, you end up kind of using them. Some banks require that you register your relocation. Capital One used to, and I used to have to go in every month and confirm that I was out of the country, but they finally dropped it, said, you don't have to tell us anymore. Don't worry about it. and it's been fine since then. But banks will do here what they do in the U.S. Every once in a while, you'll be standing in a check line in the U.S. and you use your card and it's rejected. You go, what? Well, for whatever reason, the bank's algorithm says that might possibly be fraud. And so what happens is I'll get a notification on my phone about the same time, and it'll say log into your app. And so I log into my app and it says, are you trying to do this transaction? Yes or no? I hit yes. And then I tell them, okay, run the card again. They put the card and then it goes through. So it's pretty seamless. I had the same thing happen in the United States. And I found here it's just as easy with the bank app with Capital One. I can do it just like that. Even if I didn't get an email, I would know, hey, let me open my app and it'll tell you. What's the cheese situation like? I remember Peru never had any real cheese. Is Colombia import cheese? How is the cheese market locally? I can get whatever cheese I want. Now, I don't mean Monty Python cheese shop, get every cheese you want. I mean, you actually can get, if you like blue cheese or gorgonzola or brie or camembert or cheddar or sharp cheddar, or I could go on and on. And nope, fresh out. Sorry, not much call for cheddar. But yeah, cheese, not a problem. Yeah, that was a problem in Ecuador too. Everything that I typically would want in the U.S., I can get here. Sometimes you have to figure out where, but I always find it. How much of a problem can that be trying to get around the big deposit? What big deposit? Go ahead and tell me what big deposit, and then I'll answer when I see that further down. Because I don't have any big deposit. I think you wisely deflect Colombian tax questions. Oh, yeah, I have to. You have a local English-speaking tax advisor reference that potential expats can consult with. I do not, but I will get one. Actually, I know a couple, but I would have to talk to them first. I haven't had that situation because pretty much everybody that I've dealt with here that comes down here and meets with me, they have they've had either a disability, 100% disability, which is like Social Security, or they've had Social Security, and the amounts have been well below the $2,000 deal, and they're not trying to do business or anything else. So they've all been a similar type of category, and in all those cases, it isn't anything they've had to worry about. But I will look that up because there was somebody that was selling a house, and they wanted to purchase something here, and he's been here a lot of times, and so it's, he's making a informed decision, and so there may be some implications in that. So I'll try to remember to talk with them and see what I can do. I imagine yes, but I don't want to recommend somebody if I don't have any confidence in what will happen. What U.S. banks do you use? Capital One 360. My Bank of America and Capital One always had issues being locked out while being abroad. Capital One 360 in particular. I can't speak to all of the accounts, but Capital One 360 is fine. And I know that a few years ago, as I mentioned, Capital One 360, you had to inform them every 60 days or every 30 days, I think it was, or you would be locked out. And then you would go in and you'd say, yes, I'm out of the country, and they would unlock it. But they don't do that anymore. Can you provide me with your contact or agent? Yeah. Let me know when you're here. Yes, I will, because I do that, but let me know when you're going to be here. Who the hell would leave this awesome, nasty comment? I would leave me one. I got an excellent apartment through word of mouth. Ringo was moving out, gave me the contact info, called, visited the apartment while they were cleaning, took it 1 month rent in advance. Awesome. Awesome. Danny, thank you. Thank you. I greatly appreciate it. Which banks give you better exchange? I use ATM and I use either Davivienda or Colpatria because they give me the actual published legal exchange rate without any kind of surcharge. Bank of Colombia and there's a Bogota and there's a bunch of them that will nick you pretty good. But those two, they're golden. The big deposit for the apartment rental. Okay. How much of a problem to get around the big deposit? Well, it was easy for me. I just told him, no, that's too much. I can't do that. Remember, I said I walked away 3 times. And so then he got back and he says, well, how about 3 months? No, I really appreciate you trying to work with me, but, that's just too much for me. And then, I don't know, 5 minutes later, he messages me back. All right. And like I said, I knew that apartment had been sitting open for about 3 months, maybe longer, but I knew about 3 months. And I knew he was in Bogota. I knew he was going to be a little bit hungry. And sure enough, see, the agent will insulate you from those situations. And if they have an agent, you can still work with them directly. You can kind of cut the agent out of it, which is why a lot of agents don't want you to get in touch with the owner because he might make a deal and it'll cost them some money. Any off the beaten path pueblos or activities check out outside of Medellin? Yeah, there's a ton of things. Open up Google Map and you'll see a million of them. You just hover over these different areas. Colombia theoretically taxes worldwide income and assets, doesn't it? Yes. Lots of retirees have IRA, 401k accounts. Yeah, but if you stay out of the tax system and the money never comes. If you have a Colombian bank, one of the downsides, let's say your money is deposited into the Colombian bank, you are automatically in the Colombian system. And so that income is showing up and anything else. You get a Christmas present or something else. All that, it's like right there for the government to view. If it's out of the country, it's a different story. Now, when you get your visa, yes, you have to show your document saying this is what I get, but it's a different department, and it's not actual banking information that they can actually access. So, once you're in the system, everything you do can be scrutinized. That's why I think it's best to avoid being in the system. But on the other hand, I do suggest that you check with somebody that knows for your particular situation if you should be paying tax here. Because maybe you should be, and I'm not suggesting at all that you tax dodge. But what I am saying is, like in my case, I know for a fact I do not have to pay tax in Colombia, in which case there's no reason for me to volunteer to be in the system. Hello from Beirut. Coleman, Beirut, come on. Why would you be in Beirut? Mr. Coleman, last I knew you were, where was it, Connecticut or Massachusetts or something? Maine. You were in Maine. How would you get to Beirut? Uh-oh, message retracted. Okay, I think we're probably done here. So last call for any kind of question. Okay. Well, I thank you all. I appreciate it as always. And I'll see you next Sunday.
Life's a foolish game. Do you ever feel the same? Well, maybe we could change. Turn the ship another way. Feel it in the darkness. We're sailing right into those jagged cliffs.